Good afternoon, I'm Rob Wright. I'm the Chief Editor of Life Science Leader magazine. I'm here at the Boston Convention Center for the Bio International 2018 Convention and Conference. With me I have Dave Thomas, Managing Director of Industry Research at Bio. Thanks for stopping by, Dave.
Thank you.
So I'm in the publishing business a little bit. We publish a monthly publication. I understand you've been publishing some new research and we're very focused on chronic disease earlier, but what could you tell us about that?
So this is something we found in our studies of venture capital. It kind of started there where we saw a disproportionate funding in going into oncology and rare disease and less funding going into the highly prevalent chronic diseases. And what we wanted to do was investigate if this is a more widespread issue beyond the venture capital stage. And so we've started to do a deep dive on each of the indications that are in the chronic disease space.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the year, we published our first paper on depression.
Okay.
And we looked at that space for the state of innovation in therapeutics. And what we found was that there actually is a widespread problem of clinical trial starts industry-wide. Big pharma down to small biotech are down 50% from the peak.
Okay.
And we found that the number of new targets in the pipeline is pretty anemic. And we moved from there to the pain and addiction space.
Okay.
And did a similar study in that area. And we found also that the clinical trial initiations over the last 10 years have been trending down. So there are less clinical trials being initiated in that space, in particular pain. Not much at all going on in the addiction arena, just a handful of companies in that space.
Is there anything you can attribute to those declines to, that you've seen thus far?
The declines, there's an issue of lack of new targets.
Okay.
So there's very complex biology, and we still need to figure out and uncover what is behind the role of, or what is playing the role in depression, for example, and in pain and addiction. Those are areas that are very, very difficult at this point from a biology perspective.
Right.
And they're also, from an investor perspective and maybe large pharma investment perspective, is looking at the market access side. So there are difficulties when you're entering into a highly genericized market with launching a product and getting reimbursement. And so I think the investors and the pharma companies are taking a step back in those areas.
Well, so we're here at Bio, and I understand you just published some new data. Wonder if you could get us up to speed on what that was about.
Right, so we also publish our annual trends report.
Okay.
And we look at venture capital, licensing, M&A, IPO market, et cetera. And one of the key takeaways that we found this year, which surprised me, was that R&D stage acquisitions were at the lowest last year on record. So down to 21 R&D stage companies. And we dig into that, we found that it was really a phase 2 and phase 3 companies that were not being acquired, with the exception of Kite, of course, which was an outlier last year.
Right.
When we looked at IPOs, we found that IPOs were going up for phase 2 and phase 3 companies.
Okay.
So the story there is that companies, small companies, have opportunities out there to access the public markets and maybe not go with the acquisition route.
Right.
So we're seeing a seller's market, if you will. Now, things have changed a little bit in 2018 because here we are in June at the Bio Convention, and we already broke a record for R&D stage acquisitions. So things changed after December 31st.
Okay. Well, that's really exciting. I guess the takeaway is that it's a good place to be in bio right now, even as a small startup with a lot of avenues to get funding.
That's right. Although it's still tough in the chronic disease space. So we will be looking at diabetes next.
Oh, okay.
And obesity. And after that, we plan to go into the neurodegenerative space, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's in particular, and publish a report on that.
Oh, great. Well, Dave, thanks for stopping by. And thank you for tuning in. I'm Rob Wright, Chief Editor of Life Science Leader magazine. Enjoy the rest of the conference.